And we're actually going to start by talking about the league leaders, Liverpool, and their game with Fulham, because the returning Diogo Jota scored their equaliser as they twice fought back with 10 men to deny Fulham all 3 points at Anfield. There was 1 goal, 1 red card, 4 yellows as well, and that was just the opening half hour of the game. It was eventful. Andy Robertson was the player sent off with a straight card for what was deemed a foul on Harry Wilson in the 17th minute. They had to come from behind twice with goals from Cody Gakpo and Diogo Jota late on in that second half to secure the point. After the game, the Liverpool boss Arne Slot said he was happy that his players left it all out there on the field.
When I talk about performance, I couldn't have asked for more from the players. So they gave it all they had, played really well with 10 men. So we had more ball possession, created more chances, and that's also being 2 times 1 goal down. I couldn't have asked for more in terms of performance, in terms of results. We're still, of course, disappointed with losing 2 points.
Huh. I mean, he's absolutely right. They gave it their all and did leave it all out there. It didn't even look like they were a team playing with 10 men, really, when you think about it.
No.
Quite impressive.
It's quite tricky to, play against good teams that have 10 men and you've got 11 expectation. I mean, Fulham were leading the game, so they didn't have to throw too many bodies forward. But I actually felt quite a lot better after that game, that result, because I knew it'd be. We talked about this yesterday with Troy Deeney, didn't we, Nat?
Yeah.
And Troy said the same as me. This was a much more trickier game than from the outside. It looked like for most people, Stonewall. That's a 3-pointer for Liverpool. I never felt like that about that. I thought this is a tricky game against a side that's improving and offers lots of different threats, which they did in the game. And Liverpool come from behind twice in the game and had Andy Robertson sent off as well. So there was no lack of commitment there from Liverpool, so it wasn't a complacent performance at all.
Yeah, I mean, what's staggering is when you're down to 10 men after so early on as they were in that game, they still were able to dominate in terms of ball possession, in terms of attempts in the game as well. I mean, their XG was more than Fulham's as well. Very impressive, like I say, to play with 10 men and be so dominant like they were, which you might expect still from a quality side like Liverpool. But it just didn't feel as though they were hampered, even though they were, because they were down to 10. I suppose Fulham, on the other side of the coin, will think, how did we not win against 10 men? Because they twice took the lead. And what was really effective for Fulham was that left-hand side where Anthony Robinson and Alex Iwobi actually were linking up a fair bit, and they were getting a lot of joy down that left-hand side.
Absolutely. And you're probably talking about 2 of the most improved players in the Premier League over the last few years. Iwobi's grown enormously since the player that was at Everton, and his relationship with Robinson, who's, for me, it was the only issue I'd ever had with Anthony Robinson was defensively. I've always thought he's great going forward. His game defensively is way better. And I thought he got the better of Mo Salah yesterday. Look, Mo still had an assist in the game for Gakpo's goal. That's what Mo Salah does. He doesn't have to be the best player on the pitch to still make a mark on it. It was a really intriguing game. The one that Fulham are dangerous. And they are going to take points off a number of teams over the course of a season.
They already have.
Yeah. Well, Arsenal found it out. They found it a tough nut to crack. Liverpool likewise yesterday. They've played Arsenal and drew in a game, and they've played Liverpool and drew. So we know what they're capable of now. Yeah,
and just to reiterate how good a season it has been for Fulham, who only are 9th, but this is the congested nature of this table because 9th, but they're 4 points off the top 4. Yeah. They are having their second best ever start to a Premier League season. That's how good it has been for them. Obviously, a couple of contentious decisions or non-decisions, shall we say. The Robertson red card, was it a red for you?
Well, just about, but you know what I'm like with red cards now. I nearly give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Is he he is sort of the last man. Slight collision with Harry Wilson. Is he under control of the ball, Wilson? Because obviously Robinson gets the touch and catches him. But the modern game, you nearly know it's going to be a red.
Yeah, and there were suggestions of possible reds the other side of the table with Fulham. Maybe less so with Diop early on in the game, but maybe
I didn't think that was.
No, you didn't. But Andreas Pereira, of course, who opened the scoring for Fulham, minutes before had a bit of a naughty challenge. I think it was on Robertson.
Yes, on Robertson, Danny's Achilles.
Yeah, and I remember actually I happened to be watching Soccer Saturday at that point when Mike Dean himself, being a former ref, had said that was a red in his eyes and was surprised that VAR hadn't looked at it in more detail.
Yeah.
So did that look like a red to you?
Well, if you're giving reds for what we're talking about, then it's a red.
Yeah.
You know, I just hate the fact that 10 men is happening just way too often. I think it spoils football.
Let's also review another game very quickly. I'm sure we'll go into more detail on some of them, but Arsenal failing to capitalise on Liverpool dropping points as they were held to a goalless draw by Everton at the Emirates. The Gunners could have boosted their title hopes with a win, but could not find their way past an inspired Jordan Pickford. And we actually spoke about Everton's defence yesterday, didn't we, about Tarkowski and Branthwaite and getting them back together as a firm pair, because Branthwaite has had injuries this season, and that defensive solidity and resolve was certainly very important to Everton yesterday. Arsenal had 76% possession, a total of 13 shots even, but couldn't find a way past Pickford. And I think Mikel Arteta, Cass, spoke about how dominant they were in the game, but that means very little if you can't score.
No, and I did sort of chuckle to myself after the game because I could feel the Arsenal meltdown from their fans. I listened to a bit of talkSPORT as well, and there's certain individuals coming on and getting really frustrated and angry with certain things to do with Arsenal and who they took off. Well, let's get it right. Odegaard was out for quite a while, so he came back against Chelsea, and then I was at the home game against Nottingham Forest straight after, and you could tell he wasn't up to speed. I think a manager's looked at the player before Christmas knowing he's got to play a lot of football and he missed the start of the season. So I sort of understand that. And just a reminder to Arsenal fans, right? Before yesterday, the previous 6 games, Arsenal had scored 19 goals, right? So, yes, they drew a blank yesterday against a very disciplined Everton team, and Pickford was on fire, okay? It's a frustrating afternoon. That happens in football. It doesn't go your way, you get frustrated. But they have got 5 at Sporting Lisbon. They scored 5 at West Ham. They got 3 against Manchester United, I think. Wasn't it 2 or 3 against Man United, Monaco? Let's get it. Let's put it in perspective. If this was a common theme, and this has been going on a little bit too long on about Arsenal in open play don't score, well, they do score because they've got 19, and they're not all 19 set pieces, are they? So
yeah. Well, let's hear from the Arsenal boss, Mikel Arteta, who spoke about the ramifications of this result on their season.
I don't know, difficult. I think you have to prepare the games to have the highest winning probability. And then winning or not winning in this game is tricky, and it doesn't always go to the team that deserves, because if there was a team that deserved the 3 points today, without a question of a doubt, that's Arsenal.
I mean, expectations is always the hardest thing to deal with for any side, for any fan as well, because we spoke about this game like we did with every game yesterday, expecting an Arsenal win, especially at home, because they have been so prolific, and they are unbeaten still, let's not forget. But they just came up against a side that was strong in their defence, and Jordan Pickford had one of his brilliant games for Everton.
Oh, very resolute,
Yeah, I suppose
It's funny now. I'm laughing because how many fans are actually moaning about their clubs? You know, like we've seen Man City, we've had Tottenham, we've had Arsenal from yesterday, Wolverhampton won.
It can change quick. Yeah,
it feels absolutely. Like a lot of people are not in the festive season, are they? The mood.
Well, that's the problem with football. It turns. So you can have all that festive cheer, and then suddenly you're just in the glum.
We haven't even mentioned Wolves yet, have we?
No,
we mentioned Wolves. We'll talk about Wolves.
I just looked at our producer, and his face was not happy. He doesn't want to talk about it, but I'm afraid we're going to have to. Yeah. So it was a big win for Ipswich. But we're talking about Everton, again, one of the other issues that we spoke about yesterday for them was offensively. They didn't have a single shot on target in the game. Yeah.
I don't think many Evertonians are too worried about that. I think if they was playing at home against a team at the bottom of the table, the boos would be ringing around at Goodison Park. I think yesterday it was a really... everyone knows what Arsenal needs, okay? That's obvious. They need the number 9 that makes the difference. The signing that... I always think of signings for teams is, what would have Alex Ferguson done? I always think like that towards transfers, because he always needed something. And by the way, he did go after a lot of players in his career, and a lot of them he got, and a lot he didn't. But he went after players for continual change. And I'm looking at Everton thinking it's just a great result. Whatever way, whether they had a shot or not, they were there to do a job and get a point on the board, and that's exactly what they got.
I mean, obviously, he started with Havertz up front. He brought on Jesus in the second half as well to try and get a goal. Jesus has not really done it for Arsenal since his move, really.
Well, when him and Zinchenko first come, there was a lot of optimism, and rightly so, about the two players.
It felt like an upgrade.
Well, you were bringing two players from a winning club.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, this is what Arsenal needed, which I'd still say that at that time they did. I just think the longer he's been there, Jesus, he's got poorer. He's just not played as well. Maybe, look, missing games and being on the bench and not, and having a number of injuries, you lose a little bit of something. And he looks very erratic. For a player that's won so much, in front of goal, he's actually looked really erratic when he's played. He's not look as, most players are being judged how clinical they are. He's not been clinical for Arsenal. And certainly in the last, I'd say, year or so.
So in terms of Arsenal's title challenge, if you were speaking to the Arsenal fans right now, is it a message of don't give up?
Well, you're playing you're supporting a big club that has an opportunity to make Champions League football, and you never know if they could go on a run of 4, 5, 6, whatever games you need to win on the bounce. Arsenal capable of doing that. Chelsea have come from, by the way, a long way behind to be second.
Yeah.
Chelsea were way behind a few weeks back. They've gone on a run. So, I'm pretty sure Arsenal could do a similar thing. And by the way, the chasing group, there's a number of clubs that could do that. If Liverpool slip, it does bring a lot of teams into it.
And it looked like they were slipping at one stage yesterday, being twice behind to Fulham. As it is, they did rescue themselves a point, but it's 2 successive draws. Is that an issue for you?
What?
With Liverpool.
Oh,
2
Liverpool.
successive draws.
No, the one yesterday was, I think, in the end, was worthy of a point, and a full credit to Fulham. Made a real fist of the game, and I would see it a point game because going to 10 men, and who they were against, and just how the game looked like it was going to pan out. It looked like, I thought for long periods Fulham were going to win. Okay. So I'll take it as a point gained.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.